Uh, I would like to thank the organizing committee for this conference. And I believe I thanked Dragana 5 times already. Now it's probably going to be sixth. So I'm going to present a new monument from North Macedonia, from the Matejče Monastery. And I would like to, before beginning, after thanking organizing committee and Dragana, I would also like to thank Jasmina Čirić, professor at the University of Kragujevac, who actually showed me this stele and has hinted me towards the fact that it's not published. So thanks to Jasmina, and we can start going now. So, a short introduction. Matejče Monastery is the last endowment of the Nemanjić dynasty. The church we are looking at was built in the mid 14th century, and but the first phase of the church was built by the Byzantines in the 11th century. And the stele we are discussing, which is shown, which is used as the threshold of the southern entrance of the church, used as a spolia, is marked by red arrow. It was brought here from another location since on the position, which we are going to discuss a bit later, there were no Roman sites. So the only mention of the stele in scholarly literature was by Jasmina Čirić in her article published in Niche and Byzantium in 2020. And the stele was not mentioned by Arthur Evans in his antiquarian researches in Illyricum, even though he does mention a stele near the Matejče Monastery, but this is in the Matejče Monastery. But in the period when Evans was traveling, the southern entrance was built in, so the stele was not visible. And also Evans mentions that the stele has illegible inscription, and as we're going to see after a few slides, this stele has, in fact, legible inscription. So the aim of the presentation is to describe the stele and analyze the inscription. So here we can see how it looks in front of the southern entrance. It's fragmented, and so the location, it's on the southern slopes of the mountain Skopska Crna Gora, on the approximate elevation of 1,029 meters, and it is overlooking the Preševo-Kumanovo basin. It belongs to the territory of the village of Matejče, which belongs to the municipality of Lipkovo in North Macedonia. It's very close to, it's more close to Kumanovo, but it's also relatively close to Skopje. So just a brief discussion about this territory in the Roman period. It became Roman in 28 BCE when the territory of Dardania was annexed by the Romans. Before the establishment of the Moesia and Moesia Superior afterwards, it belonged to the possibly belonged to the Dardanian military district. In 84-85 CE, it became part of the Moesia Superior after the division of Moesia. And in the late 3rd century CE, with the reforms of Diocletian and Constantine, it became part of Dardania. So as we know, Skupi, in present-day Zlokućani near Skopje, or in close to Zlokućani, it was that's where the Skupi was. It was found it received the status of colonia either around 72 CE during the reign of Vespasian or around 84-85 during the reign of Domitian. In the issue of Balkanica, we've all received as a gift for participating in this conference in an article from the Austrian researcher Lina Diers. The reason for the formation of the Colonia Skupi was highlighted as the necessity to make Roman rule in the area stronger, to make stronger connection between the valleys of Vardar, Morava, or Via towards the Danube and the Aegean space, and also to make Roman administration in the area stronger, which is also includes taxation, recruitment, etc. So when we talk about this territory in the terms of municipal sense in the period, we have two, when we talk about the delineation of the municipal territory of ancient Skupi, we have two schools of thought. The first one is represented by Serbian, Hungarian, Croatian authors, which basically say that on the basis of the distribution of graphic finds, that we can delineate or approximately delineate the municipal territory of Skopje versus topography, which is mostly highlighted and accepted by the authors from North Macedonia. But judging from the examples of other municipal territories, for example, Sirmium, we can actually see that geography doesn't always have to be the main case when discussing this. Because, for example, when we take into consideration the municipal territory of Sirmium, it extended both across the river Sava and both across the river Drina, which are, as we know, major watercourses. So geography tends to be a bit problematic when delineating the. So on the basis of the present state of research, this is some area where we can delineate more or less the municipal territory of Skopje. I have to highlight, I'm very sorry, that North Macedonian authors tend to say that the territory of Skopje did not include the area around present-day Vranje. And basically, there is an opinion that two separate municipal units existed in Kumanovo region and in Vranje region. So when we talk about the Stele, it's made of white marble. I did not conduct any petrological analysis regarding its material, but in a PhD dissertation defended at the University of Ljubljana by Maja Basotova, 3 white marble sources were registered in the area of Skopje, which is Vuksan quarry, which was this marble was used for monuments both in the area in the direct proximity of Skopje and in the area of Kumanovo. We have quarries of Govrlevo Dračevica, which were used exclusively in the area of Skopje, around Skopje, and the quarries from the island of Tassos, which was also used in the area of Skopje. So the Stele, it's fragmented in 2 parts. Its left-hand side is missing, so approximately 3/5 are preserved. Dimensions are, as we can see over here. And when we talk about the type of the Stele, we cannot really determine the exact type, which were drawn in the PhD dissertation of Maja Basotova, because as we are going to see, the monument is fragmented, and the parts of the monument are hidden below the church walls. So therefore the typology isn't really chronologically sensitive here, ranging from the late 1st and the 3rd century CE. When we talk about decorations, which we are going to see, the monument has frame with grapes and ivy leaves that grow from the vessel, which is characteristic for Vuksan marble monuments, highlighted by Maja Basotova. We have a fragmented rosette, and it's also chronologically insensitive since it spans on the monuments from late 1st to 3rd century CE. So here we can see how it looks. It's built in as a threshold. The inscription is slightly worn out. There is a certain indentation here. And these are the types which this Stele might belong to. But unless we destroy the church, we're never going to find out. But we're not going to do that. Happened in 2001. Here we do have some of the preserved decorations. And now let's talk about the fun part. The inscription field is double profiled. Its dimensions are, as we can see. The inscription has 9 lines. And when we talk about the alignment of the inscription, the first one is centered, but the others are, because of the fragmentation of the left-hand part of the Stele, we don't really know if it's more aligned to the right-hand side or centered, or we don't really know. And the letters are deeply carved, but they are worn out, and their heights are more or less the same. In the first line, it's 7 centimeters. In other lines, ranging from 4.5 until 5 centimeter, and letter U or V in line 7 is 2 centimeters. So the reconstructed inscription is dis manibus Caius Iulius Maximinus, possibly veteranus legionis septime Claudiae militarit annis vixit annis, and Julii possibly, priscus et prisca nepotes bene merenti possuerunt. Here is the translation. And when we talk about the datation, so we have excluded the type of the stele as or decorations as something which is sensitive. So we have to talk about luckily we have preserved the epigraphic formulae and paleography of Petr Petrović. So we have dis manibus and bene merenti possuerunt, which begins to occur on monuments in Moesia Superior from the early 2nd century CE. Then we have the absence of the Pia Fidelis name of the 7th Claudian Legion, which started to occur in epigraphy after the reign of Emperor Trajan. When we talk about the combination of the absence of hic situs est and faciendum cura verunt and the presence of bene merenti possuerunt, we can talk about the late 2nd and early 3rd century CE. And when we take into consideration the book of Petr Petrović, when we look at letters A, C, S, and V, we can say that this is monument dated to the early 3rd century CE, which is particularly interesting, and we are going to see why. So let's talk about the deceased person. His name is given in the tria nomina form, and the nomen Julius is very, very prevalent. From the earliest days of the establishment of Scupi, nomen Julius is prevalent in Scupi. It's prevalent, in fact, on 34 monuments from the area of Scupi, which are listed here, and they are ranging from the second half of the 1st century until the mid-3rd century CE. They are given usually in four, so we have variations of their forms. We have Julius, we have Julio, or we have abbreviation Jul, like in the case of this Matejče example as well. Juli they were having various roles in the life of Scupi. They were deductive veterans. They were one of them was Decorio Quinquenales. They were Miles, Misicius, Praetorianus, Severi Augustales, and veterans. And we are going to see why it's important to the important book of Snežana Ferencic on the veterans in Balkan provinces. It's important to highlight make a distinction between deductive veterans and veterans. So Julius is an imperial nomen, and it came to this area in the early days of the Colonia. It came with immigrants, most possibly from the western provinces, and most of the males had the name Caius, and that's the reason why I gave a possible reconstruction of the name Caius, and because of the biggest prevalence. Sometimes this Caius is spelled as Gaius, and we have rare exceptions of prenomina Marcus, Lucius, and Titus. Additionally, 15 females from this gens are present in the area of Scupi, and the cognomen Maximinus was reconstructed because it seems that some space is left, so which would make Maximus too short. So Maximinus is one of the possible reconstructions. When we talk about 7th Claudian Legion in the area of Scupi, it's actually quite numerous in the area. In fact, we have 21 monuments of this military unit in the area of Scupi. And in the 2018 article of Snežana Ferencic in a book dedicated to Professor Fanula Papazoglu, Snežana Ferencic actually took all the veterans in the area of Scupi and made a typology, in parentheses, of types of these veterans. So we have the majority of these these legionaries of the 7th Claudian are deductive veterans. One veteran is someone who decided to settle here after finishing the military service, but he was from Dalmatia by origin. 2 monuments, we actually have beneficiari consulares. One of them has Syrian origin, and other we don't know. 4 soldiers of this legion originated from Scupi, and we can see that they had the roles of Cornicularius Legati, Miles Frumentarius, Miles, and Adiutor Prior Cornicularium Consularis. And they were ranging from the late 1st to the early 3rd century CE. One soldier was a centurion from the late 2nd century CE, and he was possibly garrisoned here after the Costoboci raid in 170 CE. One soldier is a veteran who returned to Scupi after his military service, And this monument is dated to the early 3rd century CE. And the monument we are discussing in this presentation most possibly belongs to this group. I'm not saying with certainty because we don't have the origo of the soldier, but taking into consideration the prevalence of the Yuli nomen, maybe we can assume that he originated in Skopje and then after finishing his military service decided to come back. And we have to say one thing also with these veterans from the earliest days of the colonia's life, they were quickly integrated into the life, and there were several attestations of them as edil, decurio, duovir, or questor. This map is a distribution of the monuments of the 7th Claudian Legion in the area. So let's talk about the dedicants. They are his grandchildren, nepotes. The nomen is lost, but taking into consideration that they erected it for their grandfather, there is high probability that it is also Yuli, or the Yuli. And this is interesting because this is the first example from the area of Skopje where grandchildren together, nepotes, are erecting the monument together. Grandchildren are testified on other monuments in the area, but on two monuments were made for grandson, and one was ordered by a son and a granddaughter for father or grandfather. And the cognomina Priscus and Prisca are of Latin origin, signifying old, ancient, previous, or venerable, sometimes meaning that a person bearing it was a firstborn child. Priscus was testified 4 times in Moesia Superior and once in the area of Skopje. Prisca also 4 times in Moesia Superior, but never in the area of Skopje. So to finalize everything, we cannot really conclude where the monument was brought from. We also have 3 new individuals for the prosopography of the Skopje and its area. We have a new individual for the prosopography of the 7th Claudian Legion. We have first epigraphic example where in the area of Skopje, where 2 grandchildren are making the monument for their grandfather, and this is the most possibly second known case of a veteran from Skopje that completed his service and returned to his place of origin. And yes, I'm thanking today very much.